Hey guys, one more another video on the Inside Spurs Show. Happy Wednesday morning to you all. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and week so far. Obviously, the weather looks absolutely gorgeous out there today, so make sure you get out, get some sun, keep yourself hydrated. But in this video, we're talking about some more good news. The weather's not the only thing that's good so far. Lucas Bergvall signing a new long-term and well-deserved long-term contract. I want to talk about that really going forward, not just for right this second, but going forward, what it means for us. We'll be talking about a weird report surrounding it's Cristian Romero flavored news to Atletico, but potential player swap exchange, all that kind of nonsense and jazz. You'll see what I mean when I get to it. And yes, looking at when we talk about the first thing of Lucas Bergvall is really, for the first time in a long time, it feels like when we're going into a really big week of football, and I consider it a week. I know it's 8 days, 8 days in theory to the second leg. I call it just a week now because the game is tomorrow, all right, the first leg, and it's coming into a really big 8 days for Spurs. Having a little bit of good news after nonsense, we've got no money, nonsense sale of players and things like that. This is out and out, flat out, only good news, and I think it's needed. I think it gave the fan base a bit of a lift, regardless if they do love Ange or hate Ange. By the way, I'm not saying that. It gives them that little bit of a lift, and that's what this has done. And morning to you all, by the way, gym today. I've already been, Tom. I've already been. That's why I'm still in a naff vest and baggy t-shirt. That's why I'm still in it. So let's talk about Lucas Bergvall. Lucas Bergvall, the man who has really developed this season. It came from Romano, and it is official via Tottenham Hotspur as well, that Lucas Bergvall has signed a new 6-year deal at Tottenham, valid until the summer of 2031. And this is just massive. I cannot stress enough how big it is that he has signed. I mean, he literally said last year I chose to come here. This year I chose to stay. That's cold from such a young player. That's a cold little line. With everything negative of this season, and this season still could turn out to be a positive, regardless of what you think of the league season. It can still turn out to be a positive with European success. There's not a ton of positives at this present moment. Now, that obviously can change. I'm not denying that. There's not a ton of positives from this season. Jed Spence emergence, that's a positive. Archie Gray minutes and looking like he can develop, he can improve is good. Obviously, Lucas Bergvall himself, that's a huge positive of this season. Seeing some youngsters play well and develop, and seeing that there's a player there like an Odebear when he has been fit, that's been nice. Matisse Tell looking like he's turning it around. Kulusevski taking his game to another level. It's all been massive, but I think Lucas is someone that's really, really benefited this season from the turmoil of the injury issues. He has played. Let's have a quick look, actually. I just want to get up how many minutes he has played this season, because I would expect it to be absolutely bonkers how many minutes he's played this season. And you got to think also, he didn't start the season very well. We didn't play him a lot. I mean, he's played 45 times this season. He's played just over 2,300 minutes for a guy who's 19. That's crazy, and he's not long actually turned 19 as well, only a few months ago. 5 goal contributions. Yeah, maybe not great on the face of things, but actually I think what you can say is as the season's gone on, he has developed, hasn't he? So he has been a huge shining light in what has been a fairly dim season. Like I said, that can change, not denying it. It still can change. It could be a very good, bright season when you think of European success, but he's been massive. He has. And, people were calling for him to be loaned out in January. Oh, loan him out. He's not ready for it. Loan him out. He's not good enough. And if you're one of those people, honestly, eating words mustn't be very fun, because I don't think I'd enjoy it. He's turned it around. He's been phenomenal. He's playing 3 times a week at times. And, you're thinking, oh, is he gonna burn out? Is he gonna hit the wall? And he hasn't. I think it's testament to him. Obviously, he came into a new way of living, a new way of of a country as well. So you have to give him time to adjust. Hence why I've said with Matisse Tell, if anyone that's written off Matisse Tell, regardless if he turns out to be good or not, I think you're foolish, because imagine I send you to Germany as a Frenchman from England and say, right, hit the ground running. You'd go, I need a bit of time to adjust. Same thing for him. And Lucas just needed a bit of a time to adjust. And once he did, and he started to get more frequent minutes, he has taken it, grabbed it, and ran with it. I mean, he started the season probably behind Bissouma, behind Sarr, behind Bentancur, behind Madison and Kulusevski, and maybe just ahead of Gray. You know, he was quite far down the pecking order, and now you're sitting there going, is he the first midfielder on the team sheet? You know, and that's how much he has turned it around. So testament to him, obviously testament to Ange for sticking with him and playing him as well. Again, whether you're Ange in or Ange out, I don't really care. He's the one that's picked the team. He's the one that's kept him in the team once the other midfielders got fit and healthy, and that's only a good thing. I know Ange, according to some fans, hates any player that's young, but he's kept him in the team. So kudos goes to the coaching team for helping him develop. But, you know, again, at the end of the day, you can only do so much. The player has to want to do it himself, and he will. And, you know, he's here for, on paper, another, 6 years. The way I look at it is this summer, you start to build the midfield with him being the focal point. You know, I will say this, I wouldn't be having Madison as my focal point in that midfield anymore. You know, I wouldn't be saying Bentancur is my focal point in the midfield anymore. I would be saying Lucas Bergvall is now my focal point in the midfield. He's the first guy on the team sheet. You know, that's where we start and we work from there. And that's all on him. So congratulations to Lucas. More than deserved. He's been phenomenal. And I think he will continue to get better. You know, I talk about Archie, I talk about Lucas, and I say they're going to be rock stars. They're going to be phenomenal. And I say, can you imagine them at 21, 22? Just imagine Lucas Bergvall this time next year. I think he will have developed even more. You know, I think Archie will develop even more. Wilson develop even more. If Matisse Tell's still here, again, that's depending on who the manager's going to be next season. He will develop more. I think Jed Spence will continue to develop more. I know he's a bit older than those guys, but, you know, hasn't played a lot of football in the Premier League. So this is good news, and it's needed, I think, for the fan base going into a super busy week. You know, one thing I did kind of think about, you know, I was very happy about this news. And I thought it's really good that they're bringing in a little bit of good. This is from the club, you know, bringing in some good news ahead of a really busy busy week for us of really intense football. You know, it's going to give everyone a bit of an uplift. What has happened to Rodrigo Bentancur's contract talks? Because there was talks that he was going to, rumors that he was, in talks over a contract extension, and it's progressing there in X, Y, and Z, and it's just gone completely quiet. And because it's gone completely quiet, the Atletico Madrid reports of them wanting to bring him in the summer have really intensified. So have those talks fallen through? Have those talks become non-existent? I don't know. We haven't heard anything. No mole is releasing any information anymore. And it's quite interesting the amount of no one saw this Lucas Bergvall news coming. Tottenham released it. Like Tottenham released the news and it came out. And I was like, that feels like a bomber. That feels like a huge bit of news. And it was so nice to just be hit with it. You know what I mean? Instead of like, a billion reports, Lucas Bergvall in talks to have a new contract, blah, 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 blah. It was so nice just to be hit in the face with this news. The last time we've had a few that have come out, like Kinski was one in January that came out of the blue. I think one of them, when I talk about it back in the day, and regardless of how it's been for him at Spurs, like Bissouma, his deal was agreed and it came out of nowhere. No one saw it coming. No one was reporting that Spurs were making offers. You can report Spurs are interested, but I can report Spurs are interested in 10,000 players. They're bound to get one of those players, and so it's really irrelevant. And it's quite nice sometimes. It makes it harder for me because it's always nice to give you a million updates on one player like this Romero talk. But it is so nice as a fan, which I preferred the fan in me to have the happiness than a YouTuber. The fan in me to go, God, look at this news that's come out. This is amazing. And, it came out last night and happened before a certain game that made me happy as well. So there's that. Cozy big man, how are you? But yeah, now going into the big game tomorrow, it's that weird anxiety once the Barca and Inter game tonight finishes, knowing you're next up. I said it last time when it came to the Frankfurt second leg, finishing the Wednesday Champions League games, knowing, right, you're next up, in that next batch of games, is that anxiety of waiting around for the game. You kind of just want it to start there and then. As soon as that game finishes on the Wednesday night, you just want it to play there and then so you get out of the way in a weird way. Um, that's kind of the thing now. It's like it's a day and a half away. Once that Barca game finishes, it's like we're next up, but we've still got a bit of a wait. We've got to go all through Thursday for it. So yeah, fascinating game ahead. Let's talk Cristian Romero flavored news. And it's an odd one. It came from Sport Witness that released it today. I don't think it was very long ago. It's sort of the last hour. And it really, they reported it from Marca, okay, who said that Wednesday's edition of Marca reports Aston Villa and Villarreal both made failed attempts to sign Atletico Madrid player during the January transfer window. You're thinking, that's neither Spurs. Hold up. The man in question is Rodrigo Riquelme, and he could now be dangled in front of Tottenham Hotspur as part of payment for Cristian Romero. He's a 25-year-old midfielder, and he's played 26 times for Atletico Madrid this season. That is deceptive because he's played 26 times. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist, and he's played 846 minutes. So he's an absolute bench rider. So, that's not a good start. Villarreal wanted to take him on loan. Villa wanted a permanent transfer. Madrid refused both, but now open to an exit and want to use him within that Romero deal. Romero's been a subject of strong links to Atletico Madrid over the past couple of weeks or so, although Madrid want to pay less than Spurs would ask for. Shock. I mean, I go to the supermarket and I don't want to spend the money that I have to spend. I'd rather spend less. It's kind of how it works, isn't it? It's believed Riquelme could be a great temptation tool in negotiations for the Premier League club. No. There you go. That's my temptation over and done with. No. If we're giving up potentially our best player, I don't want back a bench rider. Now, Atletico Madrid might be a better team than us. I'm not going to shy away from that potential side of things, but no. There are other players in that squad that would be more suitable for us to get, would be better for us to get, and more logical for us to get behind a guy who, I can't stress enough, is a bench rider. I mean, 26 times this season, it sounds great. When he realizes 850 minutes, you go, oh, actually, hang on, that's not good. You're like, yeah, I know that's not good. Spurs doing this is just acceptance of doing a deal just for Madrid's sake. If that's the case, we don't know what's happening with Real Madrid next summer, right? Because Ancelotti, is he going to Real Madrid? Is it Alonso going in? No, he's not going to Real Madrid. Is he going to Brazil? Is Alonso going? And we don't know. If I'm sitting here looking at it and I'm like, Atleti, if you want Romero, you're going to have to stump up the cash, mate, because your next door neighbours, they might stump up that cash. Now, there's talks that it might be in for Saliba. We don't know if that's truly the case. But for me, I'd be like, stump up the cash. If you want him, come get him. We've set a price. We might do a little bit of work on the price, but we're not. I mean, we set a price that I think they don't want to pay. Is it like they want to pay 40 million only? We're going to want, I mean, they're talking that we want 60 as a joke. We're going to want more than 60. It's now like, well, you see there's an issue there. Even if we want 60, I wouldn't want us to be going down to 40 or anywhere near 40. They have to come up to 60 because 60 is a steal, in my opinion, for Romero. I want about 80 personally because I think 80 is probably about right. Now, if it was, hey, we're going to give you 40, but we're going to give you a couple of players in return as well. You go, oh, okay, we can maybe work with that, But Riquelme isn't that guy. I don't hate the idea of a player exchange, by the way. I don't actually. I think player exchanges work differently than they used to. They do because of financial fair play. The deals are just structured that a little bit differently. Like, for example, when we bought Madison and Winks back went back the other way, it was two separate deals. In theory, it wasn't, but it was because Spurs wanted 10 million for Harry Winks because it's FFP approved. So Spurs spent a little bit more on Madison, but the deal still worked out, in terms of numbers, the exact same way. It's like you think of Joe Rodon and Archie Gray last summer. They wanted 40 million for Archie Gray, but they were happy to take 30 and Rodon. But for their financial fair play, because he's academy trained, we bought him 40. We sold Joe Rodon for 10. The deal still works out at 30 million, but it benefits Leeds a lot more. Hence why they were happy to do that deal. And also they wanted Joe Rodon, which made a ton of sense. So there is that. I mean, look, there's players in Atletico Madrid squad that I am way more interested in than Raquelme. I think we should be striving for better players in their squad. Like I said, if Romero is the be all and end all for their season, and when Simeone sort of talks about his number one target, he normally gets his number one target. Obviously, not always, but for the most part, he does. They will move heaven and earth to try and get Romero. Romero might want the move. I don't think he doesn't want to move because obviously moving to a lovely city. I mean, the weather's here great today, but it's hit and miss, isn't it? Madrid is a much nicer city for weather. The food's good. It's your native tongue, Spanish. Champions League football every single season. They're going to pay you more. It makes a ton of sense, right? So he might want it. Atletico Madrid might want it. And Spurs are going, all right, cool. You both want it. We want what we want. And then Madrid going, oh, what? No, we don't want to do that. It's like, well, that's kind of the issue, don't you think? You want to pay 40. We want close to double that. There's sort of an issue there, and we're not working towards the middle. You come up towards where we are. We might knock a few quid off of it, but we're not knocking 20 million off just to suit you and suit Romero. Romero's got 2 years left on his contract. For me, all right, fine. I'll be saying to Romero, like, we're happy to let you leave. They need to come and work on a deal with us. If they don't want to do it, we'll see for pre-season training. So, and I wouldn't shock me if that's what the deal is. That happens so often in football. Like, hey, we're happy to work with you to get a deal that you would like. But we also more importantly, want the deal that we like. And if that isn't the case and we don't get the deal that we want, or at least close to it, we can't sell you because it isn't the right deal for us. Just because it's the right deal for you or them doesn't mean it's the right deal for the club that pays your wages. So therefore, we'll see for pre-season, and we'll see it for the season ahead, unless they change what they've been doing. So that doesn't shock me. Again, what you could also say is if, for example, Real Madrid would come sniffing. If Real Madrid comes sniffing, that's going to force Atletico's hand. That will force their hand to come to the negotiating table with a much more credible offer. Like I said, 40 million is not going to get you Cristian Romero. It's just not. He's got 2 years left in his contract. Even if the people that don't think he's a great centre-back, he's a good centre-back. And good centre-backs go for more than 40 million. I can give you a long list of centre-backs who have gone for way more than 40 who aren't nearly as good as Cristian Romero. He's also not in his 30s either, so he's not old. So, yeah, like I said, when it comes to these transfers as well, let's always remember, until we know who is managing the team next season, a lot of these kind of just means nothing. Now, the Bergval one, that's phenomenal. That's great. But when it comes to this player may leave, like, Bentancur, like Romero, like Richarlison, Basuma, Solomon, Hill, all those players, right? Until you definitively know who the manager is next season, it is somewhat irrelevant because the manager's going to want to come in. He's going to want to see what he's working with. And it's not just for player sales and things like that, but it's also like, Jamie Donnelly, Josh Keeley, Will Lancashire, Alfie Devine, all these players that are on loan. The new manager's going to want to see what he's working with here, see what he's got going on and go, Yeah, let's get some low moves to these guys, but he's going to need time to really evaluate. So, like I said, regardless of your ange in or ange out, if the situation is that Ange isn't here next season and he's to leave after the season, because let's be real, let's say we went out to Bodo Glimt, you might as well just let Ange see off the season, because what's the difference in sacking him and letting Mason manage for 2 games? There's no point. Ange will ride out the rest of the season. You go and get the new manager, whoever that may be. I mean, new manager talk at the moment is really irrelevant for me. I don't care if you're Ange in or Ange out. There's a game tomorrow. I care about the European campaign way more than who the manager is next season. You can support the club for success and still be against managers and owners and things like that. But you can still want success. And European success for me is the be all and end all. So on that side of things, we have to wait until the new manager is. And the new manager might say, I'm only going to take this role if we keep Cristian Romero. There's going to be managers that are going to say that, a lot of times managers come in with the promises that this player is going to stay and that player is going to stay. A lot of managers that we've had in the past few years have come in saying, is Harry Kane staying? If he's not staying, then there's no point. If he is, then I'm interested, It could be the same thing with Romero. I'm not saying Romero's on the same level as Kane. Kane's the world's best striker. It's hard to be on such a level. But that's just my thinking on that side of things. I don't know how it's going to end up going with Romero. I don't think he's focused on a move right now. I don't think anyone other than Atletico Madrid are focused on that move right now. Maybe his agent is doing some work behind the scenes. That's not shocking. Agents doing work is the norm. Yeah, I think really we need to kind of see how we go. Winning the Europa League and getting Champions League football could really change a lot of things. You think revenue, money to spend, the advertising revenue that you get, all those things that go into it, that makes a huge part. But also players' interest in coming to you. Managers' interest. Like if Ange might, if he was to win the Europa League, he might still go, I want to leave on a high. I've won you a European trophy. Not many can say that. I've won you a trophy. Not many can say that, to be honest. I'm going to leave on a high. Everyone's in a good place, Yeah, maybe the league campaign was a bit naff, but you've got Champions League football. I stuck to my promise that I win things in my second year. Everyone wins out of this, And that I could probably see. But until that's the case, we have to wait and see. Again, tomorrow is massive. I am only focusing on tomorrow's game. I'm not focusing even on the second leg. I'm not focusing on West Ham at the weekend. Both games right now are extremely irrelevant. I genuinely think they are so irrelevant. It's shocking. Tomorrow is all I'm focused on, making sure that we go out there and play to the level that we know we can play. Again, I take nothing away in terms of a poor league campaign. But in Europe, we've actually had some good performances. And if they go out there and play to the level that we know they can play in Europe, that's going to be massive. And that might just take you that step. That might just take you a really good performance going to Norway next week with confidence to say, we do our job, we're through into the final. So tonight is massive. Tomorrow's massive. Tonight, obviously, in 9 hours' time, you've got Barca versus Inter. Once that game's out of the way, clock's ticking. Clock's ticking until 8 p.m. tomorrow. So we shall see. But thank you all so much for joining me this morning. Look after yourselves this morning. Make sure you're hydrated. It's very hot out there. Make sure you stay hydrated. I'll be back tomorrow to give you my last minute thoughts closer to around lunchtime. All right. I'm busy in the morning on Thursdays. You know I am. That's how it always works. DJ, mate, how are you? And yes, I'll be back tomorrow to talk more about that game. And obviously, we'll know a lot more from press conferences and what the situation is. Look after yourselves today. Take care. I'll speak to you all soon. Peace.